Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of fantasy romance and romantic fantasy, here with my first much needed cup of coffee as the sound of the chimes fade away. So today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. Amazing to me that Saturday is the 20-year anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Uh, 20 years, people. Just amazing to think about. I'm running late today. I slept too long for no good reason, except that yesterday I pushed word count. Uh, Dragon's Daughter, doing okay, but I figured that I needed to get 3,500 words a day. I know, but I'm doing it short term. If I get 3,500 words a day, yesterday, today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then I'll have a little time on Thursday morning, maybe some on Wednesday, to um, tweak a little bit before I send to my proofreader. But I did check with her, and because she's in Hawaii, she doesn't start until about 8:30, which is 12:30 my time. So that like gives me almost my full normal working day on Thursday. I think I can do it. I think I can. I think I can. But yeah, it's I think it's going well. That seems to be going well. Dorinda's reading along, and she says that it's her new favorite, and then she said that she says that every time. But yeah, I slept. Jackson, our cat, woke David up at 5, and I vaguely heard that, but it did not wake me up. And I didn't get out of bed until like a quarter to 6. And I thought, well, but at least we're not doing writer coffee today. And then I thought, I should check my email, which you guys know I typically don't in the morning. I checked my email because they do have my semi secret email that's only people I actually want to hear from. So at least I can evade other email thinky things. And sure enough, Jim Sorensen like emailed this morning saying, "Well, are we meeting?" And since he's driving up from Albuquerque, I feel like I should go. But they did promise to turn the fire hose on me if I'm still there at 10:30 because I do need to get back. But at least I have no SIFWA meetings this afternoon. I think I'm pretty sure. I think I already checked this, but we should probably look just in case. So that means that I don't have a natural stop point. It's just a matter of if I get to if I get too brain drained. But yeah, I don't have anything else I have to do today. So that's always something. And alert listeners will notice that I did not include Saturday, Sunday in that schedule. I am still going to try to take those 2 days off. That just seems to work wonders for being able to sustain the word count and the intensity of the work. And then, once I get that out, I've only got a couple of days before I have to go to the NINC conference. So I'm starting to feel a little begrudging about going to the conference. Uh, I don't know. I'm just torn. David was saying, well, do you have to go? And I was like, no, I don't. I have to pay SIFWA back for the registration if I don't go, I think. But I don't know. It's just that prospect of wearing a mask on the plane for the entire trip. I mean, it's much. It's much, because airplane air is already kind of stale, and having to have that mask on the whole time, uh, and I'm a mask compliant person. It's not that I won't do it or I begrudge doing it, but I do. I mean, it does wear on you. And then we have to wear masks at the conference, which I'm not super excited about. And I could stay home and get work done. But I don't know. they did send us an email yesterday saying if you don't plan to come, because of course we're past the point where you could get your registration back, but they're saying if you don't plan to come, then let them know because they have to give the hotel food and beverage counts. So I'm sure they're a little nervous about uh, having to pay the hotel more. I would be if I were running the conference, but at least I'm not. I'm just doing a roundtable there on science fiction and fantasy. So yeah, I've got definite book brain going here. That's the other advantage of going to writer coffee is it does help kind of break me a little bit out of my loop where I'm obsessively thinking about the book. I actually had a debate with myself this morning because I put on this new dress, which has butterflies on it, all pretty, and I wanted matching earrings, and these earrings went, but they're fish. They're the dangling fish, and I thought, am I mixing genres by mixing fish and butterflies? But the dragonfly earrings, I mean, aren't even. I mean, they're at least the same phylum, but they're not that much closer, and they didn't match as well. So then I decided I was overthinking. You think? So I've been reading a really good book, Navigating the Stars by Maria V. Snyder, a science fiction book, kind of YA, or at least I guess it does. It's interesting because YA has a certain voice that I don't always love, and this does not have the YA angsty. But it does have a 16-year-old heroine, but she's so smart. She's basically a hacker. They don't use the term hacking, but I mean she's basically a genius hacker, and her parents are archaeologists, and she travels with her parents to other planets. And this is not a book I would have picked up, except that, well, first Amanda Boucher recommended it to me, and I was like, eh. She's like, really, it's so good, and I was like, eh, because it's just totally didn't the description didn't appeal to me. And then Jennifer Eastep said that I should read it. She said she'd read it on Amanda's recommendation, so uh, there we go with Amanda hand selling this book. Jennifer said, I really think you'd like it. You should read it. So I got the sample, as I do. And the other day I was reading something that was feeling a little too dark for me. And I was sort of looking through my Kindle, as one does. It's like, what else can I look at to sort of dissipate this darkness? And I thought, okay, well, I'll start reading Navigating the Stars on a lark, and so that way I could at least get Amanda and Jennifer off my back. You guys, it's so good. I bought it, and now I'm almost done reading it. I'm going to read the other two books. Interestingly, she self-published it, and I don't know Maria well, which is interesting because sorry, I shouldn't fidget with stuff. Fidget with your coffee, Jeffy. Um, because we've been cross-recommended for years and years, but I don't think I've ever had any kind of interaction with her. Um, some authors reach out and others don't. So not anything negative for sure, but I just have never had any interaction with her. But where was I going with that? Oh, that I don't know, that I don't have any inside information on this one. But I just wonder if she didn't hit that same thing of like her agent and her editor was like, oh, we don't know how to sell YA science fiction, which is what they seem to be telling all of us. So, but I think the book has done really well. It'll do even better if you guys pick it up, and I absolutely recommend it. It's smart and it's entertaining, and there's this great mystery which was not something that I found particularly interesting, but now it's turned out to be super interesting. I know a lot of people were excited by the idea because basically what it is that, and I think this is even in the book blurb, that the terracotta warrior army that was found in China in the emperor's tomb. Well, as humans have moved into space, they've found these terracotta armies on all these different planets, and that's what her archaeologist parents study. And they're like, apparently aliens had like come to excuse me. I think I inhaled a gnat. uh, Apparently they've like done enough research that they know that the aliens came to ancient China and learned to make the warriors from the Chinese, that it's like the same terracotta clay on all these alien planets. And so that's the mystery. And I was like, who cares about terracotta warriors? No offense, Maria, should you ever hear this, but it's like it was not something that lit me up personally. But now I'm totally invested. I am so on board with the terracotta warrior mystery. And yeah, and there's a love story, romantic interest, and it's not angsty. There's no love triangle, so none of the other YA hallmarks. I really wouldn't call it YA. I think people would say that it has to be because it's a teenage heroine, and the love interest is a teenager too. Just to reassure you. Um, but and then there's great stuff. She does a lot of interesting things with time dilation and the effects of that on people. So recommend, highly recommend. In fact, the new JD Robb landed on my Kindle on Tuesday, which I had been waiting for. I started reading Navigating the Stars over the weekend, and I was like, "Damn it! I wish I had JD Robb." Now I'm going to finish this trilogy before I start the JD Robb, because JD Robb will wait for me. But I think that I will. There's a book that just came out this year that would be eligible for Nebula Award, so I'm going to put that on the reading list. I want to read it first to make sure, but if the quality stands up, boy, that's should definitely be on there. And I will probably put it in YA middle grade, unless the third book feels like she's really grown up. But this to me is like, I don't know, maybe I read with too much of an adult lens, but I really like this, how this book is written. So, Amanda and Jennifer, you were right. Relish the moment. And yeah, I also had another interesting experience where I read a book that I've also been reading this, and this one is very sexy, hot book. So I save it and read it in little increments. That Grace told me about. She hadn't read it, but it was doing very well, and it was sort of had a Venn diagram overlap with some of the stuff that I've been writing and thinking about. And so she uh, asked me if I was familiar with that. And so I got the sample on that and ended up buying it. And it's a Kindle Unlimited book. And it's funny because I've really been enjoying it. I'm not going to say what it is. Maybe I will later. But yeah, it's great. And it's got a very fun approach to sex where the heroine is just someone who really loves sex. And and she gets to have a lot of sex with lots of different kinds of men, and it's just a romp. It's really fun that way, and it's I've never been one to complain about the strictures of romance. Occasionally I've been on panels with authors who are like, oh well, if you're writing romance you can and you can't do this, and so I stopped writing romance. And I've never been one to worry too much about that. But it is a nice thing about this book is that if you're going to call it romance, you can't necessarily have all of these different men involved. And, and I know that's kind of like the reverse harem thing, that it's a very particular subgenre. And that's essentially what this is, although there's a different spin on it. Um, but it's really well handled. And it's funny because I added it to my spreadsheet of books that I have read this year, and the author's name popped up uh, on the autofill on Excel, and I'm like, I've read this author before. I didn't think I read this author before, so I looked, and it was like this year because it was on this year's column. So I, did my filter, my data filter, and looked, And this same author wrote a book that I read. I want to say last summer, but we're not far off of last summer. Um, earlier this year, earlier this year, and it was one that I had complained about on this very podcast for some inconsistencies. And I'd read the whole thing, but I had not continued with the series because I felt like, um, yeah, the writing integrity just wasn't quite there, and it irritated me. I can't turn off the writer brain enough. I know other people can, and so that's a difference. But for me, if there's like world building inconsistencies, it really blows me out of the water. Like even I love Ilona Andrews and their books, and been a fangirl of their books since I bought the very first book, Magic Bites, in like 2009 at the RT conference. The first two books I think I bought because Ilona was there signing. And I love their books, but then there's occasional ones where they have like world building inconsistencies that just bug me. And it's like, and I know, they have hordes of fans who just love them. And so, it's like, I know that it doesn't bother anyone but me. Um, but, it's like that writer brain can be hard to turn off. And it's like all of the analysis that I put into my own world building, uh, it just runs in the back of my mind all the time. And it's like a computer program that like sends up notifications or like highlights, like it's like that spell check or grammar check in Word where it like highlights. I like get world building inconsistencies that are highlighted in my brain, and it's really hard to read past that. Anyway, so in this book that I'm reading of this author's, not Ilona Andrews, the this one is very tight world building wise, and there are not those inconsistencies. Um, so so that's really great to see, and I think it's a good lesson because very often, and I know that I am, again, I know that I am bad. I am judgmental. I don't know. I I rarely go back on. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. If just explain it, Jeffy. Okay. If I read a book by an author and I don't like the author's writing for one reason or another, I almost never will pick up that author again, which I know is totally unfair. Um, and I know that, you know, perfectly aware that many of you out there, I've seen you guys talk about my books, and you'll say things like, not all of her books work for me, but this one really did. It's like, I totally know that some books work for people and other books don't. But it is, I don't know, maybe a personal failing of mine that if I feel like a book's not well written, then I won't pick up that author again. But very often people, I mean, hopefully everybody gets better, right? Everybody gets better at writing, and this author certainly did. This other book is much better. I've read a couple other authors where, we've all seen the things where, like, the first book is really good, usually because they spent years writing it. And then the next books are not as good, usually because they're writing it under pressure. There are some self-published authors that I've seen the same thing happen, and I don't know if they're succumbing to the pressure of like trying to rapid release, but it's disappointing when there was another author that I read one of her books and really loved it so much, and then I read another book in another series of hers, and I was all excited, and it was just a hot mess. I mean, it was just like, oh, and I don't know. I think that one was actually before the one I read, so it could have been her practice book. But it is the downside of self-publishing, is that sometimes we publish books that, we it's like, well, what's the harm? Put it out there. If people like it, yay, and if they don't, whatever. But there is that. I think there are some. maybe one or two other people like me that, like, if they think a book's not well written, they won't read that author again. And maybe I need to do better and pick up authors again with other books, especially if it's like later for them. Especially, I think, with self publishing authors, because sometimes those first self published books, people don't quite have their chops yet. So, on that note, I am going to go chop chop on my own. I'll remind you all that First Cup of Coffee is part of the Frolic Media Podcast Network. You will find more podcasts that you love at frolic.media/podcasts. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.